Treasure Island, Chapter 18. Narrative continued by the Doctor. End of the first day's fighting. We made our best speed across the strip of wood that now divided us from the stockade, and at every step we took the voices of the buccaneers rang nearer. Soon we could hear the footfalls as they ran and the crackling of branches as they breasted across a bit of thicket. I began to see that we should have a brush for it in earnest, and looked to my priming. "Captain," said I, "Trelawney is the dead shot. Give him your gun. His own is useless." They exchanged guns, and Trelawney, silent and cool as he had been since the beginning of the bustle, hung a moment on his heel to see that all was fit for service. At the same time, observing Gray to be unarmed, I handed him my cutlass. It did all our hearts good to see him spin on his hand, knit his brows, and make the blade sing through the air. It was plain from every line of his body that our new hand was worth his salt. 40 paces farther, we came to the edge of the wood and saw the stockade in front of us. We struck the enclosure about the middle of the south side, and almost at the same time 7 mutineers, Job Anderson the boatswain at their head, appeared in a full cry at the southwestern corner. They paused as if taken aback, and before they recovered, not only the squire and I, but Hunter and Joyce from the blockhouse had time to fire. The 4 shots came in a rather scattering volley, but they did the business. One of the enemy actually fell, and the rest, without hesitation, turned and plunged into the trees. After reloading, we walked down the outside of the palisade to see the fallen enemy. He was stone dead, shot through the heart. We began to rejoice over our good success. Just at that moment a pistol cracked in the bush. A ball whistled close by my ear, and poor Tom Redruth stumbled and fell his length to the ground. Both the squire and I returned the shot, but as we had nothing to aim at, it's probable we only wasted powder. Then we reloaded and turned our attention to poor Tom. The captain and Gray were already examining him, and I saw with half an eye that all was over. I believe the readiness of our return volley had scattered the mutineers once more, for we suffered without further molestation to get the poor old gamekeeper hoisted over the stockade and carried, groaning and bleeding, into the log-house. Poor old fellow, he had not uttered one word of surprise, complaint, fear, or even acquiescence from the beginning of our troubles till now, when we had laid him down in the log-house to die. He had lain like a Trojan behind the mattresses in the gallery. He had followed every order silently, doggedly, and well. He was the oldest of our party by a score of years, and now, sullen, old, serviceable servant, it was he that was to die. The squire dropped down beside him on his knees and kissed his hand, crying like a child. "Be I going, doctor?" he asked. "Tom, my man," said I, "you're going home." "I wish I had a lick at them with the gun first," he replied. "Tom," said the squire, "say you forgive me, won't you?" "Would that be respectful like from me to you, squire?" was the answer. "However, so be it. Amen." After a little while of silence, he said he thought that somebody might read a prayer. "It's the custom, sir," he added apologetically, and not long after, without another word, he passed away. In the meantime, the captain, whom I observed to be wonderfully swollen about the chest and pockets, had turned out a great many various stores. The British colours, a Bible, a coil of stoutish rope, pen, ink, the logbook, and pounds of tobacco. He found a longish fir tree lying felled and trimmed in the enclosure, and with the help of Hunter he set it up in the corner of the log-house, where the trunks crossed and made an angle. Then, climbing on the roof, he had with his own hand bent and run up the colours. This seemed mightily to relieve him. He re-entered the log-house and set about counting up the stores as if nothing else existed. But he had an eye on Tom's passage for all that, and as soon as all was over, came forward with another flag and reverently spread it on the body. "Don't you take on, sir," he said, shaking the squire's hand. "All's well with him. No fear for a hand that's been shot down in his duty to the captain and owner. It mayn't be good divinity, but it's a fact." Then he pulled me aside. "Dr. Livesey," he said, "in how many weeks do you and the squire expect the consort?" I told him it wasn't a question of weeks, but of months, that if we were not back by the end of August, Blandley was to send to find us, but neither sooner nor later. "You can calculate for yourself," I said. "Why, yes," returned the captain, scratching his head, "and making a large allowance, sir, for all the gifts of Providence, I should say that we're pretty close hauled." "How do you mean?" I asked. "It's a pity, sir, that we lost the second load, that's what I mean," replied the captain. As for powder and shot, will do, but the rations are short, very short. So short, Dr. Levesi, that perhaps we're as well without that extra mouth. And he pointed to the dead body under the flag. Just then, with a roar and a whistle, a round shot passed above the roof of the log house and plumped far beyond us into the wood. "Oh ho," said the captain, "blaze away. You've little enough powder already, my lads." And then a second trial. The aim was better, and the ball descended inside the stockade, scattering a cloud of sand, but doing no further damage. "Captain," said the squire, "the house is quite invisible from the ship. It must be the flag they are aiming at. Would it not be wiser to take it in?" "Strike my colors!" cried the captain. "No, sir, not I." And as soon as he had said the words, I think we all agreed with him. For it was not only a piece of stout, seamanly good feeling, it was good policy besides, and showed our enemies that we despised their cannonade. All throughout the evening they kept thundering away. Ball after ball flew over or fell short or kicked up the sand in the enclosure. But they had to fire so high that the shot fell dead and buried itself in the soft sand. We had no ricochet to fear, and though one popped in through the roof of the log house and out again through the floor, we soon got used to that sort of horseplay and minded it no more than cricket. "There is one good thing about all this," observed the captain. "The wood in front of us is likely clear. The ebb has made a good while, and our stores should be uncovered. Volunteers to go and bring in pork?" Gray and Hunter were the first to come forward. Well armed, they stole out of the stockade, but it proved a useless mission. The mutineers were bolder than we fancied, or they put more trust in Israel's gunnery. For 4 or 5 of them were busy carrying off our stores and wading out with them to one of the gigs that lay close by, pulling in an oar so that to hold her steady against the loss of the current. Silver was the stern sheets in command, and every man of them was now provided with a musket from some secret magazine of their own. The captain sat down to his log, and here is the beginning of his entry. Alexander Smollett, master; David Levesi, ship's doctor; Abraham Gray, carpenter's mate; John Trelawney, owner; John Hunter and Richard Joyce, owner's servants, landsmen. Being all that's left faithful of the ship's company, with stores for 10 days as short rations, came ashore this day and flew British colors on the log house in Treasure Island. Thomas Redruth, owner's servant, landsman, shot by the mutineers. James Hawkins, cabin boy. At the same time I was wondering over poor Jim Hawkins' fate. A hail on the land side. "Somebody's hailing us," said Hunter, who was on guard. "Doctor, squire, captain." "Hello, Hunter, is that you?" came the cries. And I ran into the door just in time to see Jim Hawkins, safe and sound, come climbing over the stockade. This is the end of chapter 18. So here they have the stockade. They're safe inside. They lost their store. They lost a bunch of stores. They only have 10 days of food, and that's 10 days at short rations, which means not eating everything, not eating full meals. So they're going to have to stretch the food, and even then it's only going to last 10 days. They have plenty of water, but they have the pirates outside, and the pirates outside have a whole bunch of ship stores. They also have goats and whatever on the island that they can find. Now Jim Hawkins made it back, which is good, and the doctor, I'm sure, is happy about that. Poor Redruth died. Good, faithful servant. He was a good, solid person, and always helping out, and just generally grand. And he died, and it's kind of sad. Now, flying up the colors. So these are Englishmen, so of course they fly the British flag, and the pirates responded with cannons, which, makes a lot of sense. The U.S.'s national anthem is actually about a very similar situation. It was during the War of 1812, and it was at Baltimore Harbor. So I've told you all about Baltimore Harbor and the War of 1812 and Fort McHenry. So this was the same situation, flying this flag proudly. Now, at Fort McHenry, the flag is just like was incredibly big. I mean, this is like one of the biggest flags. It takes up a whole room. I mean, it's just 30, 50 feet across. I mean, this thing is big. So, you know, Trelawney and Levesi and the captain are flying a normal sized flag, about the size of a person. And the pirates are shooting at it. And Smollett's like, yeah, bring it. You're not going to do anything except waste your powder. So that's kind of a good. But at the same time, the cannon fire was providing cover for the pirates to steal the supplies that had sunk. So, had the supplies not sunk, they might have gotten, instead of 10 days, they may have had 20 days worth of food. But, so here they are, they're stuck. They have maybe 10 days, maybe 8 days now because they have 2 extra people. But 2 extra people can help them maybe break out. We shall see what happens, but, wow. This is intense. The siege has begun.